Everyone, welcome to another episode of the QubicaAMF Tech Tip Podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we take you on a journey through the fascinating world of bowling technology and beyond. My name is Orly, and as always, I am here with a very knowledgeable guest, and I'm very excited because we've actually never had this guest on the show. I'm excited to introduce Chris Shoup. Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Orly. How's it going on your end, sir?
I'm doing good out here. We actually just got slammed with a bunch of snow, but other than that, we're doing good. Chris, so Chris is gonna first off, Chris, if you don't mind letting us know your job title and what you do with QubicaAMF.
Absolutely, I would love to. Well, I am the senior product manager for our aftermarket division. And what does that mean? There's been a lot of mystery surrounding kind of the world of a product manager, so I'm happy that you asked, sir. So part of a product manager's job primarily is to really manage the entire life cycle of a product from vision statement all the way through sunsetting of the product. And what that means is anything from researching and developing, designing a product, working with vendors. Ultimately, we need to ensure that we have the right product for the right market, for the right consumer at the right price. So think of me as kind of half engineer, half salesperson, half visionary, and yes, three halves do make a whole. So that's kind of what we do specifically within aftermarket. Aftermarket is comprised of mainly shoes, pins, balls, parts, extended warranty, chemicals, and some consumer goods. So my team manages quite a lot of things that your everyday center and everyday consumer really utilize in a bowling situation.
Okay, isn't it cool to be able to let people know what you do? Because I know a lot of times, sometimes somebody's like, "Oh, what do you do?" And let's say you're like, "Oh, I'm in marketing." "Oh, so you do this, this, this." No, actually, what I do is, sometimes people have this idea of what you do, but it's kind of cool to be able to let people know, no, this is exactly what I do.
Exactly. Every day for me and my team is very different. I could be working with a vendor, even overseas somewhere with figuring out what raw material we should use on a certain product. The next day, I could be in a strategic meeting with our executive team, figuring out how we can work on better customer success, process, and procedures. So I really get the chance to work with just about every department here at our company and really any sort of consumer or proprietor within the bowling industry. So I feel I have one of the most interesting, diverse, and really fun jobs here at Cubica.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. And I'm glad that you're here with us today. And what I wanted to talk about today was, we're going to talk shoes. People might think, oh, shoes, yeah, rental shoes, is there that much to talk about? But there actually is. So first off, just going into the summertime, we have a lot of kids coming into your center, and not just kids. Nobody wants to use a dirty shoe.
Right.
And maybe it's not the time for them to buy new shoes yet. They might not be ready, or they think, there's still some life in these shoes. If it was up to me and I'm new at a center, I might be like, okay, let me load up the washing machine and get all these shoes washing in there. That's probably not the right way. So what I wanted to let you talk about today is maybe like proper shoe, maybe inspection of the shoe to see if it's still good.
Mhm.
What they would need to clean the shoe, and maybe kind of how they would actually clean that shoe.
Sure. No, absolutely. I'd love the opportunity. And you're exactly right. So again, part of sort of our redefined focus within product management is obviously we get the opportunity to be sort of closest to the product on our side, right? So why not sort of share our knowledge out to our customer base and really the bowling industry on kind of once we deliver the product to you, what to do with it, how often, best practices. So I really value the opportunity here to sort of share kind of some insider subject matter expertise here on the shoe. And you're exactly right. Now we're kind of getting into that spring season. A lot of families are starting to kind of leave their house and kind of go out in the community and do things. And bowling is really going to start heating up into the spring and summer months. So you're exactly right. Bowling shoes, although they may not sound like the most attractive thing in the bowling center, they're typically the most recognized thing to a bowler. So whenever you come into a bowling alley, like you said, if you have a lineup of scuzzy shoes, you're really going to detract that consumer with coming into your center and having an enjoyable time. So bowling shoes, if you think about it, it's kind of one of the more personal products that a consumer would need to utilize when they're bowling. I mean, it's something that you physically put on your body, right?
Yeah.
So it's ultimately kind of one of the most important things to really keep clean and make sure that you have those expectations met by your consumer. It's also from a revenue standpoint, if you think about it, whenever a center purchases a shoe or a lot of shoes from Cubica, after about 2 or 3 rentals, the shoes have already paid for themselves. So why wouldn't you really protect one of your most profitable assets in your center? Right. I mean, this is just such a wonderful revenue stream. And I think perhaps some people may assume or maybe neglect kind of frequent inappropriate cleaning procedures on this type of product. So today, what I want to do is kind of start from the top and sort of work down through just some general concepts and general thoughts, and of course, best practices on sort of how to maintain, how to be a good steward of a bowling shoe.
Yeah, no,
Um,
sounds good. And what I was gonna say is, you mentioned it's something people see. It's something they don't want a dirty shoe. When I was helping run a center, we were a new center, so all our stuff was brand new, and that was
mhm,
the biggest compliment we would always get. They would get the shoes
mhm,
and like, oh wow, these are cool. Hey, these shoes are really clean, or hey, these are brand. Because I don't know if they were used to going in places with like dirty old shoes, but they were so
yeah.
excited to see a brand new shoe. And another funny thing, a little off topic, but people were really excited to see a little tiny, size kid, infant size 6 shoe.
Mhm.
Like they would
Oh
be
yeah.
so excited. Like they would want to rent their kid the shoe, even though they weren't even going to bowl. They were like, oh my God, this is so cute. Let's rent it and take pictures.
Mhm.
But yeah, so having a clean shoe is definitely important.
Yeah, and you also brought up another good point, Orly. So, we take pride in offering shoes for men, women, toddlers, children, all the way down to, like you said, all the way down to kind of a shoe that would fit a 2-year-old,
Yeah.
and all the way up to a size 18 shoe for some of our larger individuals. So we really offer a wide breadth of sizing to ensure that we do offer the appropriate product for the appropriate audience, like I said at the beginning of our conversation. So really, when you think about a bowling shoe, Orly, just sort of in general, we have an upper part, which is obviously kind of what you see from the bowler's lens, right? Upper part is comprised of your laces, your tongue, kind of the part of the shoe that you see, right? Of the
Okay.
consumer looking down, and then the bottom of the shoe or the sole of the shoe is mainly comprised of the slide, which is where kind of the front of your foot is up to towards your toes, and then the heel, of course. And those are comprised of various materials. And what I want to kind of reinforce, excuse me, on today's conversation is the majority of the raw material used on a bowling shoe is leather. Leather is an organic material. So leather is going to react good or bad depending on how you take care of that product, of course. So with anything sort of a natural product like that, less is more. Less product, less invasive kind of process is better as long as you do it frequently and appropriately. You're going to have a wonderful lifespan of that product. So here's some things that I really recommend having on hand in general purposes for cleaning a bowling shoe.
Okay.
Now, as most of you know, or maybe not, we do offer a variety of bowling shoe types. We offer our premium line of shoes that come in both lace and Velcro options. And then we have our smart value shoes. So we offer a wide array of products, so depending on your consumer or center needs. But in general, here are some things that I like to recommend that the bowling center keep on hand for the cleaning and maintenance of any of those shoes. First, I always recommend having a soft bristle brush or a shoe brush. So I'm a bowler personally. I actually use a brush that I would use almost on my beard or on my 3-year-old's head. So think soft bristles. Again, leather is a natural good, so we don't want to scratch or scarify that. Think of something that you can kind of dust a shoe off with. So again, less is more, less pressure, a nice soft brush. Also, for the sole, especially the slide is going to encounter the most diverse contaminants, let's call them, in a bowling center.
Okay.
So not only any type of lane oil or lane conditioner, approach cleaners, and then of course, if your center has food and beverage, it may encounter nacho cheese, bubble gum, who knows. So that sole, that slide of the bottom of the bowling shoe is really going to start to gunk up if you don't apply proper maintenance. So I always recommend a wire brush for the sole, and we'll get into kind of what to do with that here in a few minutes. And then, of course, just general damp, clean cloths for wipe down of the shoe, which we'll get into in a second. And then, really, again, less is more. Clean water is always sort of the best and most gentle cleaning product, or some mild soap. really some mild dish soap, some dial soap, something like that. Something that's very low in any active ingredients, something that's inert, something that's gentle. Again, think of something that you would use on your person. Think of
Okay.
something that you would use on a baby skin, perhaps. Again, because less is more. So here are kind of some things, some best practices. So general, the shoes get rented out, they come back in, they usually get dropped off on the front counter, lined up. Here is really where there's opportunity to do your first kind of visual inspection. So we recommend that the front desk manager or whomever is working there at least give a quick once over. We always like to check for knots. We want to check for tears. We want to check for any premature wear or anything that's just blatantly visually broken. So I always like to say do a quick visual test. Any shoes that are blatantly just not worthy of getting put on the next runner's feet, set them aside. Now, I know that that's sometimes easier said than done when you have a busy center and you have a lot of shoe turnover. But this is a really important step, because if you start re-renting those shoes out with knots, you're just going to create more work for everyone. The consumer is going to come back up to the counter and say, I can't get my shoe untied, or they're going to come up to the counter and say there's nacho cheese all over the shoe. So this is really, a lot of pre-work kind of at the front desk will really maintain a lot of customer happiness, really. So what I like to do, whenever the person does have time to clean the shoe, take that soft brush and just do a good kind of once over on the upper, or kind of what the average bowler sees. Again, less is more. So remove any excess debris from the entire shoe. Use the soft brush to wipe down the entire shoe. Okay, be thorough but yet gentle. Again, we don't want to scratch the leather.
Yeah.
Okay, again, this is a natural material on the top of the shoe. Then I always like to recommend dampen a cloth or even a sponge, whatever's clear by, as long as it's free of any chemical additives. So what I don't recommend is borrowing one of your mechanics rags or borrowing one of the snack bars rags. So you want to have a clean starting cloth or sponge. And again, just do a little bit of water, rinse it out. If you want to use a little optional mild soap, again, less is more. You can do so. And then wipe down the entire shoe, paying extra attention to the sole area, again, the bottom of the shoe. This will ensure any dirt or debris is removed and ensures a clean surface of the entirety of the shoe. Now, when it comes to sort of letting your shoes dry, of course, you don't want to store a wet shoe. Again, leather's a natural material. You don't want to have a shoe mold, or you don't want to put a shoe, together that it'll stay wet, because the worst thing to do is, rent out a shoe and somebody puts it on and it's wet. That's just that's sort of gross, right? So you want to make sure that your shoes are left to air dry. And again, avoid using any direct heat. Avoid using any sort of hair dryer or drying mechanism. Just let them air dry. Special attention should also be given to the sole of the shoe, again, because I really can't emphasize enough, the bottom of the shoe is going to encounter the most contaminants throughout the center. Now, speaking of the sole, back to that wire brush that I mentioned. This is really, really important. And a lot of people are like, whoa, you want me to use a wire brush? Well, yes, but there's a technique to use. First of all, again, less is more. So I don't need you to dig off the leather of the slide, right? So again, just really nice light grazes, keeping in mind that you want to go forwards to backwards, or the direction of the slide. If you go side to side, that'll actually make the shoe kind of stick to your approach, and you definitely don't want that. So again, using a wire brush, gently scrub the sole of the shoe. Again, do a dry scrub from toe to heel, again, just on the slide part, or the upper half of the shoe. This will ensure that you'll get a lot of that gumminess off. And again, if we do this frequently and often, you're not going to have to really get in there and try to dig that bubble gum covered in confetti off the slide. So this is really, really important. And again, once you sort of wipe down the top, you get the sole or the slide. It's also something else I forgot to mention. It's also really important for, again, to kind of make sure the entirety of your shoe is clean. We always recommend also to loosen the laces up. Really kind of loosen the laces up so you can get down into the tongue area, the top of the tongue. If it's Velcro, make sure you undo the Velcro, kind of loosen up the shoe so you
Okay.
can really kind of clean the entirety of the shoe, because you may
Uh-huh.
have some little goodies that get stuck sort of
Yeah.
down in some of the crevices and creases. So again, loosen up the shoe. It's really a good best practice. So you've cleaned the shoe, you've wiped the shoe down, you've given it a quick scuff front to back. You've really, done a good job with cleaning the heel off. Now it's time to store the shoe, right? Most centers will have cubbies. A lot of centers will have those cubby storages right behind the front desk. Again, this is so a consumer, generically speaking, a consumer is always going to consume a product visually first. They walk in, they use their senses. So, how fabulous would it be to have your bowling shoes all lined up, clean and clear, with the sizes pointed out? They look nice and clean. That's sort of the first impression of a consumer when they walk up to engage for a few games of bowling, especially if they have families or kids or etc. So really can't emphasize enough that storage is just sort of kind of some basic visual marketing for your
Yeah.
center of bowling shoes. So, I always like to say kind of line them up by sizing, line them up by, if you have men's shoes versus women's shoes, keep a clean, organized shoe presentation. It'll pay off 100-fold. I promise you, friends. So again, we don't want to put the shoes back in the cubbies if they're still wet. Again, just from your general dry off. Again, let them air dry. This is a matter of probably 3 or 5 minutes. So I'm not talking you need to let them stay out all day. So whenever after you're done cleaning and before you store your shoes, let's talk about deodorizers for a second. I think this is the biggest opportunity that a lot of people may assume, or maybe some of our newer investors just don't know kind of the appropriate amount or how often to shoe a deodorizer into the shoe. So we always recommend, again, my theme today is going to be less is more.
Okay.
When you take a deodorizer, the purpose of that is to deodorize the inside of the shoe. Okay. So again, keeping that tongue or those laces undone or that Velcro undone, lift up the tongue, give a brief little spritz of the spray, or if you have a mister, dial it down to the finest, lowest deliverable of mist. You want to aim as far towards the toe as possible. I'm talking half a second.
Okay.
I see a lot of centers, both new and old, they completely saturate the shoe inside and out with deodorizer. Friends, that will lead to premature wear of that shoe. Again, that leather will tighten up, it'll crack. We don't want to utilize that for the outside of the shoe. That is designed to get a little freshness on the inside of the shoe. And again, smallest amount. That product is designed to be pretty darn concentrated. Okay. So again, there's a little bit does a lot to deodorize those shoes.
Yeah.
Again, let it air dry for another minute or two. Okay.
Not
What we don't want to do is we don't want to use that to spray down the shoe, then wipe it down with our clean cloth that we just talked about a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
I
what I
do
was gonna
not.
say is not to call out the teenagers that used to work for me, but that they're spraying for 2 minutes,
Yeah,
and it's like people coughing around, and they're like, Orly, we're out of, we need more spray, we need more deodorizer. I'm like, I just bought that. Like, what are you guys doing here? So yeah, that's a helpful tip.
yeah. So again, there's we what better way to sort of remove some assumptions perhaps in the bowling world, especially with a new investor that might be new to bowling. So again, less is more, my friends. Clean, dry rags are the best, and then inspection. So again, past the visual inspection and the visual kind of wipe down, I always recommend at least once a month, maybe before or after your center closes up for the day, to get out all the shoes. And that's when you really want to inspect your shoes for signs of wear and tear, any loose stitching, any damage to the shoes. Again, addressing early issues can really prolong the life of the shoe. Cubica offers an industry-leading multi-year warranty on our premium shoes. So we stand behind our product. And with some of that, we're really depending on our customer base to really, help us take care of those shoes out in the center. And today's podcast hopefully will just reinforce some of those best practices. And again, I really can't emphasize enough. If you take care of their shoes, they're going to take care of your pocketbook or wallet.
Yeah, no, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And not to get far off subject here, but we were just talking about shoes. I was talking about just kind of the inventory itself. If
Mhm.
you're, if there's certain sizes you're not having, you're noticing people coming in and they're asking for that size and they're like, okay, all right. Like some people might even be like, okay, we'll come back later. Or, maybe when there is that shoe size available, you got to think about it. Even if you're renting these shoes out for, $3, $4 each time, that adds up over every day. If you're getting somebody that's, that size isn't available, that size isn't available. So make sure, that you have the proper inventory when it comes to those shoes. And I don't know if that's something you could help somebody with if they don't know, if they're a new center, and say, hey, how many shoes should I have, or what sizes should I have? And kind of going back to with you helping them with that. Let's say they are ready to buy shoes. I've been cleaning them the way you said, but I think it's just time I need some more shoes. Where would they go, or what can they do to get some more shoes?
Yeah. So I'm going to offer you kind of two statements back to yours, Orly. So first, as far as kind of how many shoes or how many of each size should I keep, we actually have a few different matrices that we've designed that really lay out our recommended quantity by size, by type, premium lace, premium Velcro, or smart value. So we certainly have a lot of tools that are found within our customer portals that customers can go and just sort of evaluate. Now, obviously, I think probably most centers have realized the most popular sizing is probably going to be in that kind of 9 to 10 men's range, and maybe a 6 to 9 ladies range. So, it's really important, like you said, to have appropriate sizing. And I also wouldn't skip kind of those ancillary sizes as well. What we really recommend is having a really diverse, full portfolio of shoes. Again, you rent those things 2 or 3 times, they pay for themselves. So it's a really small investment to have, or continual investment to have, I should say. Now, as far as how do you engage with Cubica if you do need to order shoes, that's a wonderful question. I'm also glad you asked that one. There's a couple different methods. If you're an existing customer to us, you can either reach out to your territory sales rep, or what we call our outside sales team. We also have our account services representative. Again, if you're an existing customer, you should hopefully know who your contacts are. We do have our general 800 numbers that you can call in. But more importantly, what we really want to try to emphasize is we have an industry leading e-commerce site called our eShop. eShop is on 24/7. You can go in, registering or activating an account is super easy. Um, you can go in and order shoes. It's an automated ordering mechanism. It goes straight to our fulfillment center, and those shoes get shipped out in the next day or two. So there's a couple different varieties on how to order the product. Again, if you have any questions or hurdles with trying to order anything from Cubica, I would recommend the first step is to reach out to your local representative or your account services representative. If you're a brand new center and kind of are interested in sort of how to get started, we also offer a full customer success and startup team. We have our new business specialist and training specialist. So we really can cover you tooth to tail if you're a new investor or a long-time existing customer of ours. So there's various ways to engage and to purchase products, specifically shoes, off of us.
Perfect. And listeners, if you're able to go back and rewind this and write the steps down, but if you like to see a visual of it, or you want to print something out for your staff, if you actually visit bestextras.com, that's BES and then XTRAS.com, we've actually posted a blog with all these steps on how to clean the shoes. So make sure to check that out, print that out, share it with your staff. And yeah, Chris, I appreciate you coming on the show today. This is, like I said in the beginning, somebody might say, cleaning shoes, there's not much to talk about, but Chris knows it and Chris has talked about it. And I think this is going to help a lot of people. So I really appreciate this. And listeners, if you are new to the show, make sure to go back and listen to past shows. There's so much information out there from people that have a lot of knowledge, such as Chris. So again, Chris, I appreciate you joining the show, and we hope to have you on again soon.
Sounds good, Orly. Thanks for having me, sir.